Welcome to the Solvable Mysteries Podcast, everyone. A quick disclaimer before we play this episode. During this episode, we had slight technical difficulties, therefore, the audio quality in this particular episode is a little bit lower than on our usual episodes. So that's all I wanted to say, and now let's get into the episode. And we are live. Once again, welcome back everyone who is listening to the Solvable Mysteries Podcast. My name is Juras, and as every week I'm joined by my co-host Glenn Highcove. How are you doing, man? How are you feeling on this Friday evening?
Man, I'm good today because I had a good time, and I'm tired in a happy way because I went out and I body surfed and boogie boarded for a good chunk of the day, and it was a beautiful day up in Ventura. But earlier in the week, and maybe I'll post pictures on our Facebook in case anybody wants to see what I did. I have this notorious habit of having like trees on my property just suddenly die on me, or have a problem. So I bit off a lot more than I could chew. I have this huge branch that's hanging over my car, and it probably weighed a good couple thousand pounds. And these are trees that are like not drought tolerant. So like every storm and every summer, some tree around the neighborhood dies, just suddenly keels over. So this thing was over my car and also over the neighbor's property, and it could have like crushed a kid. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll saw that off this week, and then we'll drag it off the driveway and cut it up. And 2 days later, it's still across my driveway. We did manage to kind of like rip it down, but it's still attached to the tree. My arms were destroyed. Like my forearms from grabbing the saw and doing all the other stuff. I mean, it was crazy, and it's hot too. It's like 100 degrees outside. Um, my arms, I'd never felt my forearms never felt that bad. Right, I had to take Tylenol 2 mornings ago just to get back to sleep because they were aching
God
so bad.
damn, man,
So
that's pretty
yeah,
crazy.
no, it was, and then they're still sore today. I mean, like that was Monday and Tuesday, and
Right.
then Wednesday, Thursday heal, and then Friday go to the beach and swim, and now I'm wrecked. So
Well,
yeah, I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing all right, man. Well, at least that was a good workout for you, definitely, I bet.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I lost 2 pounds.
that's a lot of weight, man. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
get into today's case. So today we have uh I would say the disappearance, but now we know that these people have actually died. So let's call it the death of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. So we could see them on the visuals if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. Kris Kremers was a 21-year-old Dutch student. She is the one on the right in this particular picture, and on the left we have Lisanne Froon, who was 22 years of age. And pretty much, to keep the long story short, because there's a bunch of details that we want to cover during this podcast, and I'm sure that people who actually know a little bit about this case already know what I'm talking about. So these two women actually decide to board a plane from Amsterdam to firstly Costa Rica, but then from Costa Rica, when they arrive there, they actually travel to Bocas del Toro's in Panama. Now, why would these two students from the Netherlands fly over to Bocas del Toro in Panama? Well, the reason was Kris Kremers, the woman on the right, I believe. Now, I'm hoping I didn't mix these details up, so pardon me if I have, but I believe she and her family had once went to Peru back when she was a child, I believe, and she really enjoyed it. So she had this friend, Lisanne Froon, that we see on the left. They worked at the same cafe in Amsterdam, and she said, wouldn't it be great if we could just travel to Panama and get some volunteering work teaching kids English or whatever, and it would be a good experience for us because Southern America and Central America is amazing. It has amazing scenery, and we would also learn a lot of Spanish. So Lisanne Froon actually agrees, and they set off on this journey to Panama. Now, I will jump quickly to the map, so everyone who is listening to this not on the YouTube, I suggest you check out the YouTube as well. So we will start off with Bocas del Toro, so this island right here. They arrive here, I believe, on let's just quickly check. Oh yeah, so March 15th. So on March 15th they arrive at Bocas del Toro, and they stay there for 2 weeks. Now I'm gonna jump to the pictures from that trip, and I will let you chime in here if there's anything you want to add while I search for those pictures.
Yeah, so you and I had a. I mean, this is one of those episodes we did a lot of preparation for you, especially. I'd say you went super deep, and I think I was still playing catch up on the research. I think that what you're gonna find, so I think some of the listeners might get a little frustrated with me on this episode, and if they do, it's on purpose because I'm trying to play a little bit of a devil's advocate on this case, not specifically because I feel that way, but because I feel there is some duty, and I do feel that way actually, but there is some duty to kind of make sure that any kind of theory that gets thrown in here, gets compared to like sort of the Occam's razor principle, so that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. That doesn't mean that's always the case, but I think selectively I'm going to try to apply that, and I guess we'll kind of see as we go along, where that. I think you'll notice that if it feels like I'm pushing a little hard in one direction or a little bit skeptical, well, that's why. That's where that's coming from.
Right. I mean, that's a good disclaimer because I think your line of thinking is, I guess, I would actually say, not on the popular side of things. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a bunch of people that look a little bit more deeper in this case than than that your explanation would sort of make us believe. But I mean, personally, when we will get into this case, I will also not have any crazy conspiracy theories. Also, what I've gathered on my end of the research, just the interesting details that are sort of really hard to explain. So, because we could speculate all we want about the conspiracies, but I don't really want to do that. I just want to talk about the details that are really creepy and that would sort of indicate that there is something a little bit more sinister to this case than just, two women lost in the jungle, per se. So we are now going through the pictures right now, and first of all, I really want to apologize for all of our listeners who are not listening to this podcast on our YouTube channel, because this is going to be a photo-centric episode where we have a whole bunch of pictures. I think I've prepared somewhere around 100 pictures overall from this trip that these women took. And I actually suggest to people to actually, for this podcast, to really go on the YouTube channel, because you will have a better understanding of what's going on if you see the pictures that we are referring to. Now, we're still jumping through the pictures. I only have a few more left. So, as we can see, this is their time in Bocas del Toro. Now, first of all, I would actually like to ask you, does Panama have some sort of Netherlands connection? Because it probably does. I'm just not that well geographically versed in Central America. I think you definitely are a little bit better versed, since you have relatives there. Does Panama have like some sort of a connection with Netherlands? Because from these pictures, I'm seeing a whole bunch of Dutch people in basically Panama, and there's like Dutch organizations there. I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm caught a little bit unready. I don't know. That is a good point. I mean, I'm looking it up now just to see if there's any reason why there's a historical reason why that. Because yeah, my in-laws all live in Belize, which is not too far from Panama. But yeah, it is interesting. There just seem to be like, I mean, I don't know if it's just a lot of tourists out and about. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the only other thing I can think of about Panama is a lot of ships go through there because it is where the canal is. But
Right.
I'm just looking at it here, and I don't see anything. I don't know.
I mean, they speak Spanish there, right? So it's not like
they speak Spanish. So it's not like it was like a colony
right?
or anything. It's weird. Maybe just those Dutch get around.
Right. I think for some reason I feel like the Dutch actually go a lot to the Central America and to the Caribbean. I just sort of have this notion of the Dutch really liking to explore that part of the world.
Yeah, well, they will. That's a good point. They were known. That was one thing that the Dutch were known for, is because of where they were situated geographically and in European history. They used to be one of the major trading nations. So even when they weren't necessarily a major power, and at one point they were kind of a middle of the road power. They were known for having like very strong like shipping and maybe
Commerce.
that just I think to your point, they probably did. I mean, there are some other islands there that are Dutch, like the Dutch Antilles and some of the other places there. So or were, I guess, territories at some point. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just feel like more comfortable navigating that, because that was like their version of the New World.
Right. Moving on in the story now, we're gonna jump to the pictures when they actually arrive to a town called Boquete. Now, I'm not really certain if I pronounced it correctly. I think it's Boquete. So it's a smaller town in pretty much the heart of Panama. Now, I'm jumping to the map, and we could pretty much see where it's at. So, it's a pretty small town, I would say. It has 19,000 people, inhabitants. So they arrive here initially by a bus of some sort. That's the only detail I know, that after spending 2 weeks in Bocas del Toros, they arrive to Boquete by a bus. And then they move to Alto Boquete, which is another region, I would say, right next to Boquete. So as you've said, Alto probably means in Spanish something along the lines of tall, right? So it's just another part of the city or something like that, of the town, I mean. So now this is where
I'm curious, can you see on your Google Maps, is it maybe higher altitude? That's what I just thought of right now. Sometimes if you mouse over on Google Apps, the pointer will actually tell you the altitude underneath the pointer. So if you put the pointer right there, maybe the other Boquete, I don't know.
It actually does say, I can see the meters actually.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? It's actually lower. It's actually
interesting.
It's actually quite a bit lower.
Oh yeah.
It's
way lower.
It's even like twice as low. So I mean,
maybe the name's ironic.
Maybe. Okay. Anyways, man. So in Alto Boquete, so as I've mentioned before, the initial plan was to go here, and we also have some pictures from Alto Boquete right about here. This is their living quarters. This is pretty much them chilling in their living quarters. They were living at a host family. The mother of that host family was called Miriam. Let's not talk about this family too much, because as I've said, we could just go on and on and on in this case. So let's just jump to the details. The first interesting detail is when these two women arrived to Alto Boquete, they were supposed to start working at this Spanish school, volunteering, teaching young children English. Now, Hans Kremers, Kris Kremers' father, also stated in this Dutch talk show after everything went down that the Spanish language school in Boca, who had organized the volunteer work, had even sent an email on Friday, so 3 days before they were supposed to start their volunteer work, confirming their start on the Monday. However, Lisanne had sent a text message to her parents that stating, "We have been sent away and I am really very disappointed." So Lisanne actually sent a text message to her parents stating that now this Spanish school all of a sudden says, "We don't have room for you guys. You have to go do some other stuff because you have to come here in a week or something like that." So basically, it was pretty weird to me. Like, how does a place in Boca all of a sudden, a school in Boca all of a sudden doesn't have room for 2 volunteers to teach people English? I mean, doesn't that seem a little bit odd to you as well, man?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if, like, the person picking volunteers got fired or something, or something else was going on. It seems odd, or maybe, like whoever was in charge, maybe they didn't like the idea of these 2 specific volunteers for whatever reason. They felt threatened. It seems odd, but yeah, I mean, we don't really have any other detail though, do we?
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, this is their time in Alto Boca when they realize that they have been sent away from that school and they pretty much now don't have anything to do. They tried to get some other volunteer work, they couldn't find it, so they were sort of like, since we're already in Panama, let's go explore, let's see the town. So for the first 3 days, I believe, they just spent walking around town, having a good time. As you can see from all of these pictures, they were like looking at the scenery looks fantastic, the weather looks great, everything is fine, and these 2 young girls are enjoying their time. From this picture right here, I'm not really certain. I definitely know that the woman on the right is Kris Kremers because she has it's pretty obvious it is her. Now on the left, I'm not sure if this is Lisanne or if this is Miriam, the host, but I feel like this might be Lisanne also, because let's mention this fact right here. Lisanne was actually really tall for a woman, I would actually say. She's definitely taller than me. She is 6'1", while Kris Kremers was, I believe, 5'6". So in their, I think this will come up in the podcast a little bit later on, their, I guess, physicality will play a part in some of the theories that we will have. Now, Lisanne actually was a volleyball player, and as we all know, volleyball players need to be really tall and athletic. And Kris Kremers wasn't into sports, I believe, all that much. And also Kris Kremers, the woman on the right, had asthma. So another thing to note. So you want to add something there?
No, I mean, the one thing I was wondering when I was looking at those pictures earlier is, like, they're not wearing hats. I remember Central America being really sunny, like super sunny and super hot. I looked at the weather for March in Panama, and it's between high 70s and 90s. I assume it's also pretty humid, like Belize is. So I would just guess it's similar to Belize weather, but higher altitude. They both are like super pale, like me. Like I have a very similar complexion to them, and they're from a part of the world that's not very sunny. Yet I don't really see any sunburns on them, at least not in these pictures,
That's a
and
good
not in
point.
the other pictures. Yeah, it's kind of strange to me. Like they're showing a lot of, they're exposing a lot of their skin. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean literally they're wearing clothes that look like they were meant for warm weather. How were they? Were they just slathering on sunscreen? I don't know.
And
Food for thought.
listen, man, they have spent 2 weeks prior in Boca del Toros, like going to the beach almost
Yeah.
every
So
day.
how are they so pale? That's amazing sunblock. I need that.
Yeah, same. Okay, let's move into the story now. Okay, so we're almost at the 20-minute mark, and I think this is we're still on good pace because now the things really get messed up from here. So April 1st, 2014, the two women actually decide to take the Pianista Trail, which is a famous trail in Panama. It's like let's jump to the map. So this is the Pianista Trail. This is where it starts at the Pianista restaurant, and you pretty much move. Let me just quickly show for our audience, if anyone's watching on the Google Maps right now. You're pretty much moving in this direction, so basically into the mountain range, the jungle mountain range. So the trail, if you follow the trail, well, first things first, people in Alto Boquete actually told the two women to not go on the hike by themselves. So at least that's the theory that everyone is leaning towards, that they have been told by people to not venture on by themselves. Now they still decided to go there, and well, it actually is said that the actual trail is not that difficult. A lot of people actually do go there by themselves. I've seen some blog posts of people going there by themselves, and they actually come out of the trail unscathed, because it's a pretty straightforward trail, at least for the most part. You're just following a clear cut road. There is, at some points, it's not even possible to diverge from the original trail, because you're literally walking in between two massive rocks. So a large part of the trip, you're actually almost like stuck to go either straight forward or go back. There's actually no room to move left or right in some areas of this trail. So the trail is set to be pretty straightforward. And I almost feel like the people that are saying that you should always tag along with a guide is pretty much because of the fact when it actually gets dark, then when it's really hard to navigate. So if you're walking in this trail during daytime, during light time or whatever, you should be pretty much okay. But if it gets dark, then when even the super straightforward trail gets really confusing at times. You could sort of start second guessing if you're actually walking in the right direction. Then you might start panicking, and then you might start thinking, oh, am I still walking back? Did I accidentally was I supposed to go left on that side of the bush or whatever? That's when these questions are actually coming to your head. And I feel like these two women may have potentially ran into this type of situation. On that note, let's talk a little bit later on. Give us a short opinion that you have, I know that you do, about traveling without a guide during trails like this in Central America, while I get the pictures from April 1st. So I'll just let you do that, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably expand on this a little bit later, but really quick, it just seemed to me in the research when I was looking at this, and this is maybe why I have this opinion and why the rest of this episode will be me kind of the challenge of me taking the devil's advocate position. To me, it seems like two people from the, quote unquote, first world or developed world coming to the developing world. So, two people coming from wealthy nations and going to a nation that is, in the process of becoming wealthier, and kind of disregarding every good piece of advice that all of the locals, the people that actually live there, the people that live by these mountains, their ancestors lived by the mountains, so forth, families have lived there forever. they they just continuously like they're like, oh no, we're gonna go do that hike. Oh well, you really shouldn't do that alone. Now we're gonna do it. Oh well, you should probably start earlier in the day. Oh, we're gonna do it like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh well, maybe you should bring water and a hat, and we'll have one bottle of water between us. I think is what it sounded like. I mean, they seem very ill prepared for this hike. There's a report that I think it's you said was it Kris had the asthma
Yeah.
issues, and she seemed, the her host said it seemed like she had a head cold, so that's not like super ideal. um Here's the other thing I'm going to call out is this trail, as I understand it. So there's did you in your research, did you see the YouTube video where the I think it's Kris's family, one of the two's families goes and actually hikes the trail with some guides, and they give a narration and they show the terrain.
I actually
There's a good,
I think I have
yeah.
the
Okay,
footage of
maybe you have
that.
it queued up. Yeah, that footage. Yeah. So
Is this the
I
footage?
when we get to it, yeah, it's actual YouTube footage. There's a part that I want when we get to that I
I'm
think I
not
know
sure
what
if I
happened,
have.
but
I'm not sure if. Oh, you're talking about the story. I'm not sure if I have the exact footage. I mean, this is just some
okay.
footage from the Netherlands, and yeah, I definitely know that.
Oh yeah, there's an actual YouTube. It's like a half an hour, and our listeners and viewers can watch this,
Yeah.
where the family of one of the two actually goes and they walk the trail, and it's like a half an hour. It's a summary of
Okay.
they're kind of them going up it. But what they point out is the trail goes from 1,000 meters to 2,500 meters. So for Americans and in English, that's like maybe 3,000 feet to 9,000 feet. That's a lot of altitude, and both of them are from places without altitude. So Netherlands is notoriously flat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's
sea
pretty close.
level, and
It's
so
actually under,
almost.
yeah, it's sea level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just tell you something. So like athlete or not, as you said it, only one of them is an athlete.
The sand.
Um, I mean, I can tell you, even when I was like in the best shape of my life, altitude kicks my ass every time. And I'm like not from sea level. I'm from like a few hundred feet. I'm from like I live in the valley. The valley I live in is 800 feet above sea level. Um, when I go to Denver, I'm already kind of like, ooh, feeling it, and 9,000 feet above sea level is like starting to get to like major ski resort altitudes, like Vail or someplace like that.
Yeah.
Um, Dude, it you can feel really bad, and I think especially if you end up spending a couple days at that altitude, like maybe happened. Um, I just I start to really wonder how well prepared they were for this
Mhm.
challenge, and I guess I'll save some more thoughts about this for the end of the episode.
Okay,
So
excellent. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. That's a really good point. I didn't take the altitude into consideration as much as you have, and I think you are making really great points. Now, as I've said, let's jump to the pictures. And for everyone who is not on YouTube, really sorry, but you guys are probably not gonna see what we are talking about. Okay, so this is the first picture in April 1st that the two women took. Now we could see Kris Kremers just as you've mentioned, no hat, just prepared for a light hike. I would say that's the level of preparation that we see from this picture. This is the second picture, probably just along the hike. They took a picture of a stream of water. We have another picture just like that from another potential stream of water right here. Then we have the two women taking a double selfie, I would say, something along those lines. Now they're still smiling, and their spirits are definitely up. Now these pictures are taken somewhere around the beginning of their journey into this trail. Yeah, this is the original picture. We also have another picture of Kris Kremers. They're taking all of these pictures. Another picture of Lisanne. Lisanne. Even from these pictures, I can tell that she's quite tall. Just the way her body is structured. They're taking pictures all over the place. So as I've said before, the first part of this trail, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. But obviously they haven't yet ventured into the forest, the jungle. Now this is when they start venturing into the jungle, and we can already see. Now this is the first picture that people are saying that their facial expressions are starting to change. Now I don't think that's the case. I think people are looking a little bit too deep into this. Now there will be crazy details down the line in this podcast, but this is just the first picture that people are like, she's quite, I mean, it definitely breaks the I guess the line of pictures that were taken previously. Like, this picture doesn't look like the other ones. Kris is far behind from Lisanne, and she's just, I guess, taking a picture deep into the jungle. Now this is another picture of the trail. This is when I told you, when you're walking pretty much in between two sides of a rock, where there's only one direction you could take. But then also I see high potential of breaking a foot in here. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, even as a matter of fact, even right before this part, when they're descending into it, the father of, I think it's Lisanne, but maybe it is Kris, he said he fell on his ass. So he was walking down the trail, and there's like loose stones and stuff. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This is not a, you mentioned their facial expressions. Maybe they're tired, like it's all smiles and grins in the first 10 minutes of the first hour, and then couple hours up, and then I will tell you, I mean, I don't know, Juras, when's the last time you were like up at like 9,000 feet?
I don't think I've ever been, man.
Dude, it's brutal. It's like you can't even run. Like, you run like 20 feet and you feel like you just ran 100 yards if you're not used to it. Yeah, it's like you're really like I'll tell you that I had to do a business conference up I think it was Vail, and the next morning, the first morning, like after sleeping there overnight, and it was like a hard sleep overnight. Your mouth's dry, everything's, dude, I wanted to die. I felt like I was dying. I had to go to the oxygen bar. They had special oxygen tanks set up for us.
Goddamn.
Because it's like the only thing that made me feel better, which maybe they needed, beer. Beer was which is strange because it's supposed to not work, but yeah,
it actually works, right? Maybe they needed some beer then.
Yeah.
Right. So this is pretty much some more pictures of them. Now maybe I was a little bit mixed up in my analogy, but these pictures are since I'm showing them in chronological sequence, these pictures right here are pretty much after they took that one picture of Kris where you can't really tell if she's smiling. So a mix up on my end. Whatever, they still climb up this the trail, and they still take good pictures. Now this is around 2:00. This is all now the clock situation, the time situation is a little bit messed up in this case, because the taxi driver that took them to the beginning of this trail said that they started the trail at one time, but the host family said that they probably started the trail at a whole nother time. Some witnesses told some other time, so we really can't gauge what time they actually started the trail. But this is actually when the pictures are start to look a little bit more eerie, at least. Wouldn't say creepy, but just eerie. I mean, this one in particular is pretty strange. I think we have a close-up. No, I don't think we do. So basically this picture right here, some people actually state, now this is gonna be a little bit the crazy line of conspiracy theories, but I don't know, man. Some people state that Kris in this picture is actually handcuffed. But yeah, I don't really know how that is accurate, since this is the next picture taken where she's not handcuffed. So she was just in a weird position, I guess. And actually, this picture right here is the last normal picture that they're Canon camera took. They had a Canon camera that they were taking pictures with, and this is actually the last normal picture that they took. That's it, man. Now, not even a single picture is taken for the next 7 days. So the next time pictures were taken were on April 8th, so 7 days later. Now we will talk about this shortly. Now what I wanted to ask you is how, pretty much, not necessarily how, but like, yeah, how would you even survive if you're allegedly lost in the jungle for 7 days, you know, and then take pictures? That was the first thing. Like if I'm lost in the jungle, wouldn't I like die within like the first few days?
You would think if you don't get water, and I think that makes me wonder. So I have kind of a theory about how it is that they couldn't find them, and how it is that they ended up presumably off that trail. Before I get to that theory, you may have some other stuff you want to show, and
Definitely.
then the one question I want to pose real quick is, like you said, some people think that maybe at some point in this journey they were, you know, accosted and maybe taken captive and being forced to pose for some of these pictures, which I think is what we're going to march through. What I would ask is, if this trail is supposedly this, like, you can only go front, you know, forwards or backwards, how would somebody take them captive and expect to get away with it? You know what I mean? Like how would they not expect to run into other people? Because even on the video I watched of their family, one of their families going up and down the trail, they were running into people all over the place. They were running into like indigenous people. They were running into like cattle runs, like people running cattle up and down the trail. Like it's an actual, like you said, it's a road. It's an actual like the cattle actually erode the trail into place. That's why there is a trail.
That's an incredible point you've just made, man, because yeah, if they were captive, how would people that capture them would just expect not to run into anyone? Because this trail is widely known and the locals walk it and tourists all the time. So so I'm definitely not leaning towards that theory, at least currently, at least in these current pictures. And in general, I'm probably not leaning that way, but definitely not right now. I'm thinking these are just pictures that they took. Now, before we move into the real creepy details, I think we should sort of jump from this end of the timeline. Like, we should just pause it right here and basically state that this is the last picture that they took and they disappeared. They didn't return back home to their host family. And also one detail that we sort of skipped out on, there is this restaurant, and I believe it is the Pianista restaurant, the one that we showed on the Google Earth map. That restaurant owners had a dog called Blue or something like that. I believe it's a Spanish name, but when you translate it into English, it's called Blue. I think it's Azul in Spanish. So this dog actually tagged along with the two women for the trail, but now all of a sudden during the day, a little bit later on in the day, the dog arrives alone without the two women. Now the dog is said to have been doing this on a regular basis, just tagging along with tourists and just people who go up the trail. I think that's super odd how a dog just tags along with like random people. I'd be like, I'd pretty much be like, yo, what the hell does this dog want from me? You know, that's my first reaction. But I guess it was probably a friendly dog. You know, I mean, any thoughts on that?
The dog Blue actually, I believe, appears in that same footage I refer to. So, like, you know, when it's funny because, you know, it makes sense, right? Everybody starts in the same part of this trail at the beginning. So, like, probably the whole world ends up meeting that dog Blue, and the dog actually makes an appearance in the footage.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Okay, definitely. Let's keep moving. Now, they are missing. pretty much the next day, a whole bunch of people start looking for them, and they can't find the two women. Now, what I'm thinking is, how does a search party of so much people don't find them like almost immediately? If it's, I don't know, man, they probably had to be somewhere deep in the jungle, like diverged from the original trail at that point, since no one can find them. Wouldn't you agree with me right now?
Yeah, I mean, this gets into my theory about this whole thing, is that, like once again in the footage, I guess what I liked about the footage was, at least it showed the family doing their search. This is before they found the bodies. I think they'd found the camera at this point, and they make this big show, like the dad. Sad to say, I feel like the dad was kind of reinforcing his own opinion, so he had kind of a confirmation bias for,
Right.
oh, they wouldn't have gone off here, they wouldn't have gone there. Oh, there's no way. They keep on making these statements like, there's no way you could get off this trail. There's no way. But then at some point they end up in like a big pasture, big open area, full of green on both sides, and they're like, well, they would have stopped here to take a picture at least, and there's no picture. So like they were trying to kind of figure out, like, if they got off the trail, if they fell off a cliff or something.
Right.
Where did this happen? So I understand what they're saying, but I think the one thing I wanted to jump into is, at one point, and maybe the timing seems about right. At one point, even 2 points, they crossed streams. Now the interesting thing is, these streams are going pretty good. They were like, half a river at this point. Like, they're like, oh, well, there's a pretty waterfall, and I think they took a picture by one of the waterfalls. Well, the funny thing is, at least one of the streams was at a much lower water level that time of year. Like, it actually hadn't kicked into like the full. Yeah, it's like down from here. So here was my thought, because a lot of the evidence about what happens and what things turn up have to do with waterways. I really wonder if it went long, they got exhausted, or they got thirsty, they didn't have enough water, or a lot of things like that, or maybe they even thought,
Can we save this for a little bit later on, because we're skipping one really important fact now. All of our listeners are probably, how do you know these things? How do you know that? How do you know about these pictures? How do you know about these details, right? Well, I think before we go into like explaining our theories, I think we should jump into, how do we know these things. Now, 10 weeks after they disappeared, a local woman found a bag. I think I have a picture of this bag. Let's see if I actually do have the bag picture. Oh yeah, I definitely do have it. It's, as I've said, I have so many pictures right now set up that I actually have to go and look through the archives that I've set up. Now, this is the findings in the bag. Now, the bag, as you can see on the bottom right corner, is a blue, just regular bag. It wasn't waterproof. It was just a regular bag, and inside it had two nicely folded up bras that belonged to the two women, two pairs of sunglasses, two phones. One was an iPhone that belonged to Kris, and one was a Samsung Galaxy that belonged to Lisanne, a water bottle that for some reason wasn't even talked about in the media. I guess it didn't play that big of a part. And two pairs of sunglasses, and then that camera phone that we are looking at the pictures from. So we are looking at those pictures because they were on this camera phone. So before we jump into the next details about the camera that I really wanted to talk about, I think we need to jump into the phones, because the phones are super eerie as well. So as I've said, both of these women had a personal phone. As you can see from this timeline of calls and other actions, Kris had that iPhone and Lisanne had that Samsung. Now, look at the time dates. I think I will want to know your side of the theories on this. On April 1st, as we all know, the same day when they started hiking and when they went missing, they both made 112 emergency calls. Now, 112 is a Dutch emergency phone number, like a 911 in the US, but it doesn't work. I mean, it does work. From what I've gathered, it does work in Panama as well. But because I think you just get like redirected to the Panama or something like that emergency center. But they both make that call at pretty much 16:39, so at 4:39 p.m. So that's like 2 hours after 2, or let's say maybe even 1 hour from their last picture taken. So I don't know, man. To call the police so early into their, let's say they got lost, to call the police so quickly, don't you think that's a little bit odd? Don't you think that the first thing you would probably be doing is trying to find your way out? And I don't know, I would expect a call to the police to happen a little bit later on in the day. It's almost like they didn't get lost, or it almost feels to me like something happened to them. Not necessarily a conspiracy theory abduction, but maybe an injury, or maybe an abduction. I don't know. No one knows at this point. What do you think about that? But let's stop here just for a little bit, because I have more details.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, it does seem like, because people asked, well, why didn't they, like, if they were just lost or something, why didn't they just call like the house that they were staying at, which, you know, assuming they had the number, of course, right?
Exactly.
They even kept track of that. But yeah, it does. It's weird because people think police right away when they think like 911. I mean, sometimes they do. I think even I do. But in this case, yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like maybe something catastrophic happened.
I mean, the thing that I have in my head, maybe the dog is connected. Maybe they think they lost the dog, or maybe the dog ran away really quickly for some reason and they chased this dog and then an injury occurred. You know, I just keep thinking maybe the dog had something to do with this. But let's just stick to the story now. From the phone logs, we can see that the next day, now this is also, I will want you to chime in a little bit here. They called 112 on the next day. So Lisanne made in total 3 attempts. Pretty much one is 6 a.m. in the morning, then it's 11 p.m. in the morning, and then it's 2 p.m. In the afternoon. And pretty much Kris on the next day only called at 8 a.m. in the morning. So why do you think, if something bad happens to you, I mean, first of all, they couldn't reach the emergency centers because there was no connection, obviously, but don't you think it's a little bit odd that something really tragic happens to you and you only attempt to call the emergencies people only once on the first day, and then on the next day you start calling on a more regular basis?
Yeah, I mean,
why would you only call once?
Only once?
Yeah.
Maybe you were busy. I mean, so to me it looks like, let's pretend Lisanne is the one who's hurt.
I think it would be Kris, because she had the asthma. I feel like
she's asthma.
I think that's the more rational.
I'm only saying that because her phone was the one that was used first. So I'm going under the assumption emergency happens, you just go for the first thing that you have in your pocket.
The
phone you know how to unlock.
Kris phone was used first.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So Kris phone. So something happens to Lisanne.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Kris goes, oh shit, let's call 112, yeah. And she tries it, can't get through, battery, whatever, and she's like, oh, well, maybe it's my, like sometimes, yes, different phones have different reception, so she goes, oh, so about what, this is 12 minutes later?
Yeah.
12 minutes later, the other one, she tries the other one, and also tries it, but then yeah, it's a good point. Like, what happened in the next, 12 hours? right?
Exactly, even more than 12 hours, I believe.
So was one person just totally busy trying to stabilize the situation? Like, was somebody bleeding? Was there bone sticking out of their leg, like a compound fracture? Were they screaming and thrashing around? Were they having a seizure? Were they dehydrated? Was one person having so busy trying to save the other person's life that they couldn't even
exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. I'm like giving you these details, and you're passing the test. So far,
I'm good at making up reasons.
yeah. So far, you're passing the test. Okay, let's move on into the next phone call. So the second day, we have 4 phone calls in total. So 3 come from Lisanne's Samsung, and 1 comes from Kris's iPhone. On the third day, we have another 4 phone calls in total. Both sets of phones made 2 phone calls each. Kris's iPhone attempts to call 911, so we can see now they're trying to call 911 for some reason, not 112. And then, so it's first she attempts to call. I'm saying she. We don't know who made those calls with her phone, but let's just assume that Kris was still handling that phone. She attempts to call 911, fails, and then at 4 p.m. she checks the signal. So she's not calling anymore. They're checking signals. So that indicates to me that they're saving battery at this point. Now, Lisanne's phone on this third day makes 2 signal checks as well, 1 in 2 p.m. and 1 in, as you can see, 4:19 p.m. The next day, on day 4, we only have Kris's iPhone making 2 check signals during around midday. Day 5, we have 3 in total phone calls. Signal checks. One from the Samsung and 2 from the iPhones. On day 6, we have, now this day 6, I will need you to chime in here as well. Now you passed the previous tests. Here's another test to you, man. Day 6, there's 2 check signal attempts. So Lisanne's Samsung is not used. Day 6, only Kris's iPhone is used, and both of the times the PIN code was entered incorrectly. So for the first 5 days the PIN code is correct, but on the 6th day the PIN code is incorrect. So there are theories obviously that someone may have taken that phone at that point, and they were like doing it. Now I still think it was Kris. I personally believe it was still Kris, and I think you will agree with me. Maybe at that point, out of like delusions or whatever for being lost for so long in the jungle, they start to forget the PIN code. I mean, that doesn't really make sense either, because I feel like I would never forget my PIN code. It's like muscle memory at this point. So do you start forgetting muscle memory? I don't know, man. I'll let you add to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning, when I heard it, that's the first thing I thought of. So yeah, besides if someone else tried to access it, but if they're trying to access it, why are they checking signal? You know what I mean? Like, wait, why not try to do something else with the phone? But yeah, I mean, my thought is, look, so that's how many days in? They started on the 1st. That's 6 days in with no food, and maybe at this point not even water or nutrients. Yeah. You know, you've been sweating, you're not sleeping right. If you're not sleeping right, you're for sure, like, one time I took a trip to Vegas, and like we partied too much for 3 days, and when I got back from Vegas, I like did 3 stupid things in about an hour, where I like jammed my finger accidentally dropping something, spilled crap all over my keyboard, and like one other thing, and it was literally from not getting enough sleep. So not only are they probably not sleeping enough or sleeping well, whoever it is that's still alive, but they're not. I mean, you know, they're sweating every day because it's hot, or they're dying of exposure, whatever's going on, depending how high up they are.
Right.
She is, and you know, like electrolyte balance is off.
Yeah.
Not eating, maybe not getting enough water. I think the person's dying.
I mean,
that's what I think.
Okay, yeah, that's actually also a good point. Maybe some of our audience will debate us in the comment section. I mean, I'm not really leaning either way. I mean, that's a crazy detail that for some reason on the 6th day they forget the pin code. Maybe they were really messed up at that point. Now, from the 7th up to the 10th day, there are 77 more attempts made to at least unlock the phone and check the signal, and all of those times the pin code was incorrectly added, so no one actually figured out how to unlock that Kris's phone. And why they were using Kris's phone is because Lisanne's Samsung actually had died on April 5th, I believe. So yeah, on the 5th day, this is a crazy correlation right now that I'm looking at, and I can't believe I didn't see this earlier. If you look at this graph once again, we see that Lisanne's Samsung dies on April 5th, and then on April 6th, the incorrect pin codes are started to go on Kris's phone. So couldn't this mean that Kris is already dead at this point, and Lisanne is just using Kris's phone and can't seem to unlock it? Man, I just noticed this. Why didn't I see this earlier? What the hell?
I mean, it's weird. It's weird because, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that because Kris's was the first one that was used. So, like, you know, my kind of like use the gun at your hip theory, right? Like, oh, here's my phone, I'm going to use it. But yeah, maybe something happened. The phone's right there. She's like, "Oh my god, unlock your phone," and then they try it, or
but then wouldn't you think that this is really crazy? How Lisanne's phone dies on April 5th, and then all of a sudden on April 6th, Kris's phone is being entered with the wrong pin number. So I'm thinking Lisanne is probably at this point has taken over Kris's phone because Kris had asthma, and maybe Kris was just not doing that good, you know?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's so. I can think of a scenario where this would be happening, and maybe where both of them are on their feet. But before I kind of go into my little pet theory, I'll wait to see if you have anything else you want to.
We definitely do.
Yeah.
Let's keep it moving then, man. Then let's jump to the pictures that have been received from that. Now, the first end of the pictures that we've talked about were from basically the beginning days, the first day of their trip on April 1st. So these are the pictures that I'm referring to. These are the pictures that have been retrieved from that bag. Now, one interesting detail is that there is a missing picture 519. This is Juras from post-production speaking. Whenever I'm talking about picture 519, I'm actually referring to the picture 509. So that's a bit of a mistake on my end. My apologies. Because the camera actually indexed the pictures, and for some reason one picture is missing. It's a really crazy detail in my opinion, because experts in the Netherlands actually stated that the only reason you could actually get rid of this one picture is if you actually connect the camera to a computer and delete it that way. Because if you just delete an image from a camera manually by going to the camera settings, the index is still gonna be there and information on that picture is still gonna be on the camera, but it was completely wiped out. So because how we know that is because the camera indexed pictures jumped from 518 to 520. There is no 519, so it had to be in there, because the camera can't just all of a sudden skip a picture, and that's being confirmed by people who use that particular Canon model. It's not known to do that. So the only way it could have been deleted if the camera was connected to a PC, a computer, and deleted from like a computer with like some sort of a software. So they didn't have a laptop or anything like that, so that wasn't an option for them. So I mean, I don't know, maybe a strange bug in the camera, but I don't know how to explain that. Let's not stick here for too long. Maybe later on the show you could actually give us what you think happened on that end. Now we have the pictures taken on April 8th, so 8 days after they disappeared. So I hope people are still following the timeline, and this is going to be the chronological order of the pictures. So if you're listening to this not on our YouTube channel, I really suggest you listen to it on the YouTube channel, because this is going to be the chronological order of the pictures. Now we are seeing the first picture right here. It's basically the pictures, by the way, were taken in between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning of April 8th, 8 days after they're missing. On my notes I have written down, how are they still alive for 7 days? I'd be dead by then. I'm certain I'd be dead. So I'm not sure how they're still alive, but I guess they take out the camera if it's them who are taking the pictures, and they just start taking pictures for 3 hours. And we can see this is the second picture. Now this is one of the pictures that the internet, people on the internet really were looking hard into. I think it's a picture of them looking down from a cliff, and on the right side of this picture, actually some people state that they see people here. This is a different, I guess, setting used on this picture in particular, and it apparently shows like someone in the right corner, on the right side. I don't think there's anyone here personally. What are your thoughts? But let's just stay here for a little bit, because we have a lot more pictures to go through, man.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends what you think. Like, let me ask you. To you, is this from up looking down, or is this from down looking up? Because if this was from, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like it's from up looking down. At least that's my, but yeah, I mean, you have a point.
It's kind of hard to tell, right? Like, I mean, to me, maybe it's like one of those drawings where you could look at it two ways, because I'm biased, obviously, by my own little pet theory, but to me it almost looks like you're at the bottom of something looking up, and that's why like those rocks look like that. Like that's why the plants are on the top and the brushy parts on the bottom.
God damn.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh my god, that's a good point. That's a good point, man. That's what it
looks like. And unfortunately, we don't have a good. I mean, unless you really, really zoomed in, but it's a nighttime photo, so you can't.
Yeah.
You can't tell. If you were to really, really zoom in, maybe you'd be able to tell whether it was the tops or the bottoms of those leaves. But to me, it's one of those optical illusion things where you could look at it two ways.
Yeah.
And either think that like somebody posted a picture on Reddit and it was of an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the airplane was going one way and it was going a completely different direction.
Goddamn.
And I was like, dude, what the hell is the point of this picture? And he's like, oh no, it's going up. And I'm like, oh, didn't look like it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. Now, man, you're making really good points throughout the podcast today. Maybe this picture is from them looking from the bottom upwards. I don't know. Let's go through some other pictures now. These are some other pictures. Some other resolution setting changes on the same picture. I mean, maybe it is from them looking upwards now,
and that's why it's like dark at the bottom. If you go back a couple, I mean, like that one, that, yeah, I mean, even one more, yeah, that to me that looks like the flash is lighting up the, like if you're in a chasm, that's why the light is all at the bottom, because it's going off of your flash, and that's why everything above it is not well lit or is dark or is in shadow. But then you have that other section above that line where the flash is reaching it because it's not masked by the rock. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you take a flashlight, and you have the flashlight slightly at an angle, it makes a shadow You know what I mean? For what is sort of not indented, but then the other part is illuminated. I don't know. It's very that's a very eerie looking photo for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Most of these pictures on April 8th, early morning hours of April 8th, were of them just taking pictures of what is either dust particles or raindrops. Now, it was raining on April 8th, so I'm leaning towards that this is raindrops, but this could be dust particles. For all we know, this could be dust particles inside of a cave. There are theories that they are taking these pictures in a cave and these are dust particles. This picture right here is the next picture that actually shows something, because for the most part these 90 something pictures taken on April 8th, 8 days after they disappeared, only shows nothing. Almost makes it seem like they're trying to light up something or like looking at something, you know, or using the camera by accident. But then there are 3 pictures, well 4 actually, or maybe even 5, we'll go through them, that actually show something. Now this is the second picture that actually shows something. I personally have no idea what this is. Your thoughts on this?
I mean, part of me wonders, like, well, okay, here's the thing. So, even leading up to this, I almost wonder if what we were seeing are actually photos, they're photos, obviously. But what was the intent? Was the intent to use it as a photo, or was the intent as you're kind of slogging along, trying to find a way up out of something, and you're just using the flash?
That's the thing. I really want to jump in here. I really strongly believe that they're just in the same place for those 3 hours from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. just taking pictures, because you could see they're actually not moving. They're just taking pictures, and
just scoping it out.
It really could seem that they're actually taking just pictures of, like, you know,
different weird things.
But like they're looking up, you know, they're looking up.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. What it doesn't look like to me is, it doesn't look like somebody found a camera. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, oh, how's this work? And they're taking pictures of different things. Like it looks either deliberate or completely incidental to some other activity of using the flash for something.
Exactly.
So then this thing, I wonder. I guess no one's really identified it, because some people said it looked like sticks connected by chewing gum. The one thing I wonder is, if you did find something to eat and you were like, oh, mind you, like, this is 8 days in, who knows what kind of logic is going through their head if they can't even unlock their phone. At some point, are you like, oh, if I die, I'm going to take a picture of this thing so they know this is what I ate? You know, not that, like, anybody cares at that point, right? Because, you know, you're dead. But, you know, if they found you maybe when you were still alive, convoluted thinking is like, you know, Poison Control Center says, oh, she ate the orange thing. We know what to do for that. I don't know. It's certainly bizarre. Yeah. Either that or they just totally lost their minds at this point and are just,
Maybe they're stuck somewhere down the cliff and they're just trying to use the flash to get someone's attention. I don't know, you know. Okay, let's jump to another picture that was of something. Now, this is a picture that we are not 100% certain, so let's not stop here for too long that it's a picture from that scene. I mean, it does correlate with what we have seen previously, like with the background and things like that, and the dust or water particles in the air. Now we can see on the bottom right corner some what seems to be, like, a lot of people on the internet said this looks like toilet paper. So I don't know, man. Some pictures of potential toilet paper scattered around on some rocks. Unless you have something that will, you know, break this case regarding this, because I don't.
No, I'm mystified. I mean, I would be at least happy with them if they did have toilet paper with them for some reason, because God knows they didn't seem to have anything else useful that they needed, you know, exactly. like for an emergency. But hopefully they at least brought that.
This is the next picture, man. Now this is the one that I don't know what this is, man. This picture clearly, at least to me, it clearly shows the hair of Kris Kremers. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people online, and even the Danish officials, everyone, and Panama officials, everyone states that this is Kris Kremers' hair. But we don't see her head. We don't see if she's alive, if she's dead. We don't see any. We also don't see any blood. There is a misconception that this picture had blood on it. There is no blood. Danish media sensationalized this particular picture, added blood in post-production or something. So there was no blood, by the way. So it just picture of her head, I would assume, Any ideas what this is? Because this is super weird.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks like you said exact. I mean, what's her name? Kris has really striking hair. I mean, she has very pretty hair. I just to me, it looks like a close-up photo of Kris's pretty hair. Yeah,
pretty hair. For 8 days, you're lost in the jungle, and it still looks somewhat like okay.
Good genes.
For real? I mean, I don't know how do you explain that. I mean,
I mean, you would think maybe it depends how much slogging around were they doing, but once again, there's sometimes it seems like they were defying the weather in other ways too. Like, where's their sunburns for being out there for a couple of weeks? So yeah, maybe it's all a big plant. This whole thing is actually a made up story. No, I'm kidding. But no, it is odd. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's maybe not a time to kid, but yeah, it does seem. I mean, it's a good point. I mean, how did that would at least kind of imply that they hadn't been like immobile or rolling around in the mud or the dirt or something. But who knows? Maybe her hair is just good at shaking off dust or especially vibrant.
Yeah, and then the last picture that has any sort of something, not just the darkness, but like water or dust particles. It has like a side of some rock, but it's in no particular way interesting, at least right now to me, because I don't really see anything. Do you see anything here as well?
No, to me it looks identical.
Yeah, same here. So these were pretty much the pictures that were found on that phone, on that camera, I'm sorry. And then pretty much we could, I guess, now actually jump into the theories, because I feel like right now we have covered mostly everything. Now there's this bone situation that we have to talk about. I almost forgot the bones. So basically, the two women's actual bodies, or like parts of their bodies, bones, were actually scattered all throughout the trail. They were not found in one place, scattered. And one of the bones, now I'm gonna probably mix it up, but I feel like Lisanne's bones were almost like polished, almost like bleached, in comparison to Kris's, where hers were just naturally, naturally sort of decomposing. I don't know how do you explain that. So the difference in it's a big thing, man, in this story.
Well, because it's a big thing. Then I want to make sure. So, I'm looking at the Wikipedia here. It says the discovery of the backpack led to new searches along the Culebra. So, the Culebra is the river. Is that correct?
Yep.
Because the backpack was found in the river, and then I believe their bones were also found in the river. If that's right. So
we have a map, by the way. We have the map just to
let's really drill it down, because it is really important. Because if they were just finding their bones in the trail, well, that would be pretty weird, because it was like, okay, well, that what would do that? But I think for my theory,
as we can see, the bones were found in different locations. Like from this map, we could see that human remains on Girl 2 was found in June. They were all along the banks of the river, but
yeah,
different,
so that makes sense
different locations. different
location, but that still makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm assuming I think the altitude goes from north is high, south is low. On this map, I
feel like that's the case, and I think I know what point you are making. That the stream is going in the northern direction, right?
Is it going in the north direction, or is it going from north to south?
Because
from high to low.
Because the backpack, right? The backpack that
Where does it start? Yeah.
The backpack that was found, right? It's in the middle, from the bones that were scattered around. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah. Now, which one? Which one's girl 1 and girl 2 in this diagram? Because I'm trying to figure out which one's more bleached.
I can't tell you right now, man. I just don't even know who is the author of this map, but I feel like it's a legitimate map. I
mean, because I'm looking at this map, and like the remains are all over the place, which, it makes sense because it's a river, right? And there's stuff, and then the backpack is found pretty far up. So I'm saying the river is running on this map. I mean, if on this map the top of this picture is north and the bottom is south, then I'm saying no, but it looks like mountains in the south part. So maybe it's not running. It's hard to tell. But what I'm saying is, so here's the thing. So people, there's a couple other clues on top of this, because the other weird thing was the jeans of one of the girls was found. Well, this is what they said, right?
Short jeans, folded somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
Zipped and neatly folded, were found atop a rock of the opposite bank of the tributary a few kilometers away. But then later they would say, "Oh no, they weren't neatly folded just in the river itself." I have an explanation. So people are wondering, like, well, how the heck was this dead person's jeans found all neatly folded?
Shorts. Jean shorts.
Yeah, jean shorts, the denim shorts. I have an easy explanation for that. So, especially for like local people, depending on what the local attitudes are about property that's not yours. Because I've seen this in action in Central America, and it really depends on kind of the local culture. Because some places, all over the world, some places finders keepers, right? But then in some places, especially if something might belong to a neighbor, like when I was at an island resort, and like the towel fell off. It was a rainstorm going on. Our towel fell off our balcony, and I saw it happen. And I looked outside, and I saw somebody grab it. And the person, it was just a passerby, right? And you're like, right. Oh, is someone going to take it? And this is like, sometimes in some places theft happens a lot. Oh no, this person that grabbed it off the ground, who did not live where we lived, took it and put it right on the front of the resort of our building. So they were doing like their duty as a neighbor and like a local resident to do a nice thing for someone else. So like what I could see is someone finds a nice piece of clothing, and they're like, okay, if I show up with this clothing on, which probably doesn't even fit me anyway because it's for a European girl, like way taller than me, that's not going to look good. And then the classy thing is, they obviously don't know whose it is, but they look at it. It doesn't really match like the local inhabitants' clothing. They're like, well, let's just leave it here for whoever needs to find it can find it. That's my explanation. I think the same thing goes maybe
for the backpack.
For the backpack, yeah, because the backpack's like one of those big things everybody wonders about. They're like, well, how is this backpack that, to your point, wasn't waterproof? How is it found in such a pristine condition? And I think my question back is, if they were accosted by like evil men, because let's face it, like that's really the theory, right? That like one or more men maybe ran into them in the trail.
More or less, I would say that's
right. I mean, let's face it, men do something like 90% of the violent crime, and certainly almost all the sexual assaults. So, and this kind of like sexual murders. So, that's overwhelmingly so. So it's not like, here's the thing. As much as I'm devil's advocating it here, I will say that, like, for instance, in Belize, I have paid attention. There's been a couple different times now where Americans have been killed. And one of them was an American woman who was in a river right on the border between Belize in Guatemala, and like some guy like sexually assaulted her and killed her, and it was like what the hell? Like she was in a place, you know,
Jeez.
like a remote jungle area, I think kind of near like some of the Mayan temples out there, and it kind of looks like some random dude just stumbled on her and like did a crime of opportunity. So I'm not totally discounting that. I think it's a little harder when it's two women, especially one woman who's like, you know, almost my size. But it's not impossible, especially if you have guns, and you know, like men are certainly good at forcing themselves on other people. So I think that the issue I have is, why wouldn't those people also just take their all the valuables, right? Like the things they had were worth money.
It was $83, I believe.
So $83 plus the two phones, so the mobile phones and a camera, digital camera.
Exactly.
All of those things have, and let me tell you, like,
It's value.
yeah, I mean, in that part of the world, $5 American is a lot. So these things are worth way more than $5 American. I don't.
For them, right?
Yeah, for I mean, anybody really. You know, if you're buying goods and services in Central America and you have, you know, $20 American, you can get a lot of good stuff. You can get like maybe a really good meal for several people, or, you know, a hotel room for maybe more than one night, something like that. It could you know, it's equivalent,
Right.
to, yeah. So I guess that's my question is, why wouldn't they take it? Why would you pass that up if you were going to do something as callous and as stupid as do something to two high profile victims? Because it's high profile, right? It's embarrassing to the Panamanian government. It's embarrassing.
I just want to step in here. Panama actually spent $88,000 on the search. So for a country that, you know, as you've said, $5 can get you quite a bit, how much could $88,000 get you? You know?
Yeah, I mean, what did that set back their local? Remember, like one of our other cases, they pointed out that they blew like the whole law enforcement budget on one of these searches, like, or the whole military budget, but between all the like flying airplanes and all the other stuff. So yeah, so it's embarrassing, it's expensive, it's money that they don't necessarily even have to spend on it, but they spend it because like they don't want to have the reputation of bad things happening to tourists. And bad things do happen to tourists all over the world. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen. What I do say is, for that to have happened here, the clues don't line up. Like, I can't explain why a backpack is so pristine coming out of a river. I don't know. Maybe it's a clean river. Maybe it got washed pretty good. I mean, it is odd. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
One other detail that I want to mention here is that a shoe was found that belonged to Lisanne and that had a foot inside of it, and actually some government officials, both from Panama and the Netherlands, sort of state that this sort of explains a foot injury that Lisanne had, because her foot bones were still found in this shoe. And I guess that would correlate to your end of the theory, right? That she got injured. She injured her foot, I guess. You know?
Yeah. So I mean, I think now maybe is the time for me to unveil what I think happened. So just based on the pictures, and this is not my idea. So this is, I think when I'd heard about the case in the first place, someone had kind of explained it like this. So I think what happened is, for whatever reason, they got off that trail. I think that it's possible that at one of the low points of the trail, when it went where the creek was there, I think that creek was low enough that it looked like it was passable as like a stream you could walk. So maybe that was part of the idea. It was like, oh, I bet you this stream goes to a river. Maybe that's a faster way to find a village. Maybe they were under some impression, because, like, you know, it is a fairly robust hike either way to get to the destination. Maybe at some point, maybe they just wanted to explore. Like once again, they haven't seemed to have like necessarily adhered to good judgment this whole time, even though the parents of one of them said, oh no, you know, she was smart. I have no doubt she was smart. I have no doubt that normally they'd have good judgment. What I would say though is they acted on this trip in ways that kind of acted like the rest of the world was as safe as what they were used to. So that, like, you know what I mean? Like, almost like when you go to Disneyland, you don't expect to get hurt, right? When you go to like certain tourist destinations, I think it's very normal, and I've even run into this trap myself. I've made the mistake of being a little too cavalier and like almost paid for it with like an injury or death. And I think that that's not unusual, because people go to a new environment and they kind of maybe they want to have an adventure, they want to do something different. I think that maybe somehow they went down one of these creeks that crisscrosses this trail, and at some point they may have either fallen down that creek into a deeper chasm that they could not get out of, or somehow in that process ended up in another chasm. Like, they're like, oh, let's check this out, oh, that looks like it'll have some cool plants or animals, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in like a hole, but a hole that like eventually gets filled up by a river. So let's suppose, you know, you're them, you're not getting enough water really from like this little trickle of a stream. It's not a clean river, it's got like parasites in it and stuff, even though they did show in one of those videos one of the river guides drinking out of the water, but God knows, you know, what he's used to. And what I mean, you know, just truthfully, yeah, it sounds worse than it is, but what I really mean is, like, you know, like in certain parts of the world, you don't want to drink the water even coming out of the pipes, but then the locals are somewhat used to it because they've adjusted to the bacteria. I mean, you know, So, but anyways, yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend drinking out of a stream for sure. You know, you can get all sorts of parasites and stuff. Anyway, yeah. So let's suppose, you know, they're down there and they got into some kind of situation. One of them gets hurt, you know, and can't get out. Maybe they both can't get out because one person went to go rescue the other one, and even though she's not hurt, now they're stuck in a hole that only has a little bit of river trickling in it from the stream. No food. It's hot during the day. It's cold at night. You're kind of, like you said, like how do you last 7 days, 8 days? And yeah, eventually you both, you know, even though you're both trying to use your phones, you both succumb to the elements and you die. And then you rot there. And then the river comes along and it washes both of your bodies and your backpack. And both your bodies.
But the backpack is in pristine condition.
Is in pristine condition. That's what they showed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, who knows? The backpack weighs less than they do, so the backpack may have had a very different course. I mean, you can tell by the way their bones were scattered up and down the course of that thing. Every little piece of them, you know, let's consider the backpack a piece of them, a piece of their party. And I don't mean party. I mean party like, you know, a group of people. Right. Yeah, like just, you know, when the elements turn their bodies and their clothing and their everything into fragments. It may be, yeah, for whatever reason. I mean, I don't get how the electronics still work, actually, other than I guess they were powered off and they were able to dry them out. I mean, you know, I lost a phone in a pool one time and I never got it to turn on again. But
I mean, the details that we sort of, I mean, I think your explanation is definitely like the one that we could actually like put out there, because of the fact that it actually, like, it explains the situation, you know. It doesn't confirms like that this is the way it happened 100%, but we don't have any sort of like other indications of, like, at least I don't know of any indications of them getting abducted, you know. That's what I'm gonna say. Like, we don't have any details. At least I've not seen any abduction details. That's why your explanation is the one that we can make now before we, I guess, sign out, because, you know, this is gonna be a little bit longer of a podcast than usual. But then I have some notes here, and I think I wanna quickly run through the other details that I've marked down during my research that I'm thinking, how the hell do you explain that? So can we just go through that? Maybe you will have some explanations. Okay, so the first thing that I have is the dog. Why would the dog run away from them? Could it correlate that they sort of fell down and the dog just didn't know what to do and just ran back home? That would make sense right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super attached to the dog theory because I feel like the dog. I don't know what its behavior is normally. I don't know if it just sticks by people the whole time, or I mean, why?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, who?
Okay.
Yeah.
One detail we've not mentioned on this show is both Lisanne and Kris. They both kept diaries. Pretty extensive diaries, to be honest. There are diaries online. People could go and look into them. Why would they not leave a note? You know, maybe they were preoccupied trying to survive, but at some point, if they knew that there's a high chance that they would die, why would not just, just for a precaution, just in case they die, why would they just not leave a note? But your theory then would correlate with the fact that maybe the note got washed down. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, did they even find? I mean, were their diaries even with them? I mean, they didn't even bring enough water. I don't.
I mean, diaries
I
were
don't.
found. I'm not even sure if
Were
they
they,
were found in the note in the bag, but there's definitely diaries that they kept.
Did they find? Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering. I mean, did they even bring it with them?
Yeah, they left it. They left it. Yeah, they probably. You're correct.
And then where's the pen, right? So to do a diary, you got to do a pen. Yeah, that. I mean, I do the one thing I thought of about that too, because that is a good question. The one thing I thought of is there's a movie called The Edge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's got like Anthony Hopkins in it and Alec Baldwin, and they get lost in Alaska. And there's like
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. It's sort of like, it's not a big favorite by other people, but I really like it. It's what I call a leveling up movie. But it's interesting because I don't know if this is true, but I find it plausible. One of the things the Anthony Hopkins says is a lot of the times people that die when they're lost, they die from shame. Like they're kind of ashamed, they're embarrassed that they're lost. So that's why sometimes they don't look for help early enough, or they kind of do things that don't make sense because they're trying to find their way out of the situation instead of letting people find them. I don't know if that's true, but I always thought it was a cool plot device, and that's what I thought of with this, is maybe they were embarrassed, even though obviously they did try to call 911. So yeah.
The other thing is the missing picture. Any ideas on that? Because it's a big thing, man. The picture 519 is a big deal, man.
I mean, so the one theory I saw was that the Panamanian authorities were sitting on it, so they have it, because like you said, you can't delete the photo on the user side without renumbering all the photos, so that you wouldn't even have you wouldn't even know it was missing unless you had, like you said, connected it to a computer. Yeah, I mean, my two theories are either the Panamanian authorities have a good reason for not releasing it. There's something that it shows that either is like, just embarrassing, like, I don't know, your genitals or something, your nipple, or something else, something not.
But the thing
helpful.
is, the thing is about this picture. If it was just a regular picture, then it would make sense. Maybe it's an inappropriate picture, but this picture 519 was actually taken in between the last picture that the girls took, which was this one right here, and the 90 nighttime pictures of April 8th. So some people state that picture in particular could actually break the case open, and that picture could potentially hold some vital information, because the pictures on April 8th, they don't make any sense. We can all agree on that. But pictures on April 1st, they make absolute perfect sense. Two girls walking around taking pictures of the scenery and each other. So if the picture 519 actually made sense, you know what I'm trying to say here? It was probably a picture that would make sense. It wouldn't be one of those crazy April 8th pictures. It would be a picture that makes sense, and it's missing. So what's that all about?
What if okay, so I have an older I think from me, my hobbies, I have like some, like, I would call them near professional level cameras. They're like DSLRs that are a little bit pricier. And then I have a Nikon Coolpix, which is kind of like this cyber shot that they have. This Nikon Coolpix is about 10 years old, and it's not professional level. And it was kind of like from that era before smartphones got so good that like you didn't need to have a separate camera anymore unless you were a pro photographer. And you know it chews through batteries really quickly. So you can't like my other cameras, I can take pictures. I can take tons of pictures at the highest quality, and I won't run out of batteries unless I'm shooting all day long.
Yeah.
But the other one, the Nikon, oh no, sometimes like it'll just run out of batteries in like half an hour of shooting. So what I think is that to me makes sense why this also divides. I bet you the battery died. Battery died mid-shot, so it writes a nothing file. It writes a file like an empty JPEG or
the batteries were actually intact.
So, so it well, whichever batteries. I guess what I would like to know is, maybe that's worth looking up. What does a cyber shot run off of? Does it run off of its own dedicated battery, or does it have does it run off of AA's?
I think it's its own dedicated battery. That's the sense that I've got during my research. I mean, I'm not 100% accurate.
Yeah, you're right. It looks like I'm looking at just the Sony. Yeah, okay. So it's got a battery, but it's also it's a swappable battery. So like the camera I had before my Nikon Coolpix runs off of AA's. The one I had before it was like the Sony Cybershot. It was really similar to it. It was almost identical, and it ran off of one of these like special format batteries. But I had two of them, so I had one because the fact is it wouldn't last all day. So I would take pictures. So what I'm saying is the other one's gone. Yeah, they swapped because the new one's there because like they were taking pictures all day. The thing went kaput, and then she swapped batteries and then didn't take any more pictures because like life fell down on their heads. And then both of our phones are dead.
Right.
We need some kind of light source. And like
I don't think both of their phones were dead at that point. We don't really know when this picture 519 was taken. It could have been taken while the two phones were still alive, because the phones only. First of all, I think the iPhone died on April 10th and the Samsung died on April 5th. But we have no idea when picture 519 was taken. It could have been taken on April 1st for all we know, or April 2nd, or April 3rd, 4th, or even 5th, or even, I don't know, man, 7th or something like that. So up until 8th, because from April 8th we have a whole nother set of crazy pictures. So it could have been taken while the two phones were still alive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it. To me it seems like a lot to balance, like if you had to weigh those two possibilities. To me, like I said, because I've had, unfortunately, cameras go kaput on me for lots of different reasons, including batteries right at like the best time to take a photo.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of looks like, they were taking photos, the battery died. She's going to do the switch batteries, and then something else happened, and then they were using the phones for other purposes to try to light up things, and then at finally the end of this whole nightmare, the phones are both dead, and now all you have to use as a light source is Canon, is the Cybershot, and the Cybershot doesn't have like a flashlight mode, right? All it has is a flash. So if you want a flash, you take a picture, and maybe that's why we have all these seemingly strange pictures. I also like what you said though about trying to signal to aircraft above. That makes sense, because that would
However,
have been
during nighttime, the Panamanian government didn't conduct helicopter searches. So I think that was not the case. Anyways, man, the next thing, only a few more left, I promise. The next thing is, I remember that toilet paper picture that I've shown to you that none of us could actually make out anything out of it. Well, it's actually a bit of a mystery. Why would they even bring that sort of a substance with them on a potentially short hike? Because initially it was only supposed to be like only for one day, like for 8 hours or something like that. They were not supposed to go for like days where they would potentially need toilet paper. Now this is a zoom in of that picture, and we can see that it may not even be toilet paper. It's whatever it is, it's some sort of a paper-ish substance. Now why would they bring this substance with them? You know, like it doesn't make sense. Why would they bring it to the first place? But yeah, I mean that's not necessarily a theory that they got like abducted, but it's just an odd situation for me personally. Why would they even bring such a substance with them?
Like a paper substance? I mean,
what is this? I mean, maybe you have a better idea.
What about feminine hygiene products?
I mean, but there's a bunch of them on the rocks. Remember that picture? It had like almost like it was way too much for one day, man.
Yeah, I mean it's true. It is, given that they were so unprepared in other respects. I mean, they were really going like light with the preparations. Like they were
exactly.
They were thinking this was a tiny hike. Yeah, I don't know.
Last thing.
Sorry. What about the diary? Could it be one of the diaries?
I feel like they have been found in the host's family house. I forgot to mention that.
So it's not like a notebook or something that they brought with them. That where's the pen though? But maybe this was.
Not sure.
I don't know.
Not sure. The last thing. Remember how the bag was found in pristine condition? Now I can't explain the bag being found in pristine condition, and I don't think you can as well, or maybe you can. I'm not sure, but let's talk about the fact how it was found. It was found by a woman who clearly stated that when she found it the day before, it was not there. So is she lying? Does she not remember things that well? Because she was saying that it was definitely not there, and then the next day you see a bag in perfectly pristine condition with 2 bras folded in nicely and everything packed in nicely. The bones are all over the place, but the bag sits nicely in like a rice field or something like that. Well, maybe it was the theory that some of the locals, indigenous locals that were living next to this trail, they found it, cleaned it up, and left it. I mean, could that be the possibility? Because I don't really know any other reason. It doesn't seem like the girls left it like that,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the fact that someone even turned it in, to me, because you know what I mean, like
$83 if I'm a local in Panama.
Yeah,
I'm probably.
I mean, so that's like, yeah, exactly. That means, to me, that means that there's a strong tradition there of not doing finders keepers, of like personal property, like respecting property rights and having pride in, like, because like especially for locals there, I can't imagine that they're very well off. So that seems like that's almost like finding a small fortune.
Also,
in terms of
this disappearance made big news for the locals, definitely. Like everyone knew about this. Literally everyone knew about this. So when they found it, they were probably, this could be from them, But then again, they didn't even keep the money. So since they didn't keep the money, I'm thinking that it probably has everything that it initially had. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anything was taken out of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if someone actually tried to clean it up just out of like not realizing that you're trying to preserve. You know what I mean?
I think that could have been the case, and then someone was like, "You were not supposed to do that." Also, over 30 fingerprints of different people were found, and some were definitely unidentified. But I think this just was a little bit of a crappy handling of the situation by the Panamanian investigators regarding the fingerprints.
Just like we've seen with so many other cases, where like people just don't have the latex gloves and like the FBI training to know you're supposed to like drop something in like a pristine plastic sack and never breathe on it again. Yeah, that's what That's what I think. It's just, where's that thing? Do you have it? And yeah, it gets handed off to 12 different people
Right.
before the boss gets it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this has been a pretty long episode. I'm thinking it's about time to wrap it up. I mean, it's getting super late in California.
Oh yeah.
So, I guess to finalize what we have been talking here, close to 2 hours at this point, I'm gonna say that I don't think there was an abduction of the girls, at least on April 1st, because if that was the case, then I don't think they would have been alive up until April 8th. And how I still believe that they were still alive on April 8th is because of that picture of Kris's hair. You know, I don't think Kris was dead at that point. I think it was just a picture of her hair, you know. Maybe Kris took that picture herself, trying to look if there's a head wound, you know. From like the back of the head, she just took that picture just to see if there's something on her head. Maybe there's a spider or something. Maybe she's hallucinating at that point. But I don't think there was an abduction on April 1st. And honestly, since there is no indication, at least to my knowledge, of an abduction, no like any evidence of an abduction, you know, we don't see anything. I mean, I've heard there was a killing somewhere around that general area prior, but I didn't really look into it that much. I mean, maybe someone in the comments could actually change my mind that there was actually an abduction. I'm thinking that they died, but I'm not. Obviously they died, but I'm not sure if they died by an accident, if that makes sense. I'm thinking maybe a wild animal could have been involved. Maybe even some locals deterred them from their initial plans, and then, you know, maybe left them and they got lost. I don't know, maybe a scenario like that could have played out. So what I'm saying, I still don't have any concrete theories on what happened. As I've said, I've just gathered the details, and I just wanted to talk about the details today. That's all I actually wanted to do, because I'm looking forward to the comments, and maybe people who have been looking into this case for a longer time can actually tell us what we've missed, and maybe they have other theories. So now I hand it off to you, man. What are your final touches?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I, like you, cannot wait to see the comments. Suck it to me. Let's see what they have to say, you know. Yeah, I mean, it is worth mentioning that they were far from the only people to get lost. I mean, they were literally lost in this trail. They lost their lives. But, you know, for a trail that supposedly is so simple and straightforward and just forward and back, that's all you have to do. But surprisingly, a lot of different people have had to get rescued from this trail. So that's, and they, you know, they had all these warnings and admonitions from people about like when to go and what to do and what to bring. So I don't know, like we kind of get two different stories. Like you have one hand, like, you know, oh yeah, it's so easy, but then yeah, it's not so easy because enough people have had to be rescued from this thing that you have people like giving you all these warnings. I'm not super impressed with their level of preparation. I'm not super impressed even by them not wearing hats, like in that picture right there. But then, you know, I know when I was younger, maybe I didn't always wear a hat either. I don't get really I think my question, and I don't know that I really want to flesh this out because maybe it's not an answer anybody wants to hear. I got to wonder, like, why is it that they were so overconfident coming from not Central America, coming from not a rural area, they're coming from like an urban area in, you know, the Netherlands.
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, like coming to Central America in a very rural area, seemingly disregarding the good advice of almost everybody they encountered. And like, what made them think that, you know, the whole world was on rails and had like safety bumpers and safety rails and, you know, was nerfed? It's sort of strange. Like, it's not that unusual, like I said, but it does make you wonder, like, how often this is the case. Is this like kind of like one version of like, there's other versions of this. There's like Paris syndrome. It happens when like you have tourists sometimes from Asia who have been given like almost a picture book or like a very romanticized version of what Paris is, and then they get to the real Paris and they're like, holy crap, like what this is just
You're
a
right,
city and
right.
it's very
Yeah.
complex, you know what I mean? Or like Jerusalem syndrome, where you have people go to Jerusalem and they suddenly fall into this weird
Yeah.
syndrome where they think they're Jesus, or the Messiah, which is like also that's almost worth a show unto itself. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I wonder, like I feel like they got there, they ran into a lot of other fellow European tourists and had a good time. Like they certainly seemed to have had a good time. They had some interesting ideas about how they were going to donate their time there and how well that was going to be received. And it doesn't seem like it was that well received, interestingly, but that may not have been their fault. They may have been led on by somebody. It may have been some kind of language difficulty that one person misinterpreted the others, promise, maybe. I don't know. It's a little weird. But yeah, I think that ultimately, if I were to look at it, to me, the explanation is pretty straightforward. The risk profile, the way that they were warned, and the fact that, like, yeah, this trail really is so hard to stray off of. If you can't go side to side, if you can only go frontwards and backwards, it seems like a really stupid thing for somebody to assault them or do something to them. And then conversely, seems amazingly ingenious to somehow frame up some whole weird accident scene and leave the cash in the phone.
That's
And,
the only thing I
I
have on this
mean?
theory is that if someone actually did abduct them, kill them, and then staged everything, and now the
Yeah.
whole internet is looking, wouldn't it just be easier to just dispose of their bodies forever?
Yeah.
That's just a rational thought in my head. Like, isn't it like too much work to leave all these clues?
Yeah. I mean, with like fingerprints and stuff. Yeah, exactly. It seems like it's simultaneously a really stupid crime and then like an almost ingenious crime that is so good that it's undetectable. Like I guess the final piece of evidence I had on that was when they look at the bones, there's no signs of like, let's say like animals or weapons or anything having damaged these bones. You know what I mean? So like either way, either artificial or natural, there's no sign that anything.
I mean, one of the
than
bones were like bleached.
bleached, yeah, which that could be by the sun, right? I mean, it's hot out there, it's the water. You've got, you run water on rocks enough, they become smooth. Maybe that part of the body just laid out there in the blazing hot Central American sun, for a couple months. But I don't know. Then the final thing, I guess, is part of this also reminds me of, we haven't covered this case because there's just not a ton of interest in it, though I am seeing some stuff on Reddit about it. There's a guy named Jarrett Negrete, not to be confused with Michael Negrete, who disappeared from UCLA. Jarrett Negrete was a Boy Scout here in Southern California, and he went for a hike up a mountain that is not too far from where I live. And he got separated from his troop, and they never found him. And the only thing they ever did find from him, it was a camera, just like this case. They found a camera where he had taken some pictures, including a picture of himself. And they never found him again. They never found his body. And as I'm looking at the Reddit right now, they think probably, he died, got eaten by a bear or something, and his body's scattered all over the place. So, it happens. It happens to people. And
you're trying to build that interest up for the Jared Negrete episodes, right?
Come on, guys. Put it in the comments. We want Jared Negrete because I want to do it.
Right. Okay. I think that's a pretty good analogy, actually, of what happened, and then the explanation that it would really be hard to set up everything and make it seem like it was an accident when there was like a underground, killer ring in Panama, in the small village. I think it could be, but I'm just thinking that it's not as likely as the explanation that something happened like an accident happened, not a sinister event, So let's leave it at that. Maybe our comments section will have some cool explanations of what happened. Now I know it's like super late right now in California, so it's actually getting quite early in the day here as well in Eastern Europe. So we still have things to do, guys. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope there was someone who actually listened to the entirety of it, and I guess subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want more content like this. Leave a comment, leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you on our next week's episode. And for now, guys, stay safe and peace out.